Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, and I'm joined by Aram in Toronto. Aram, what up?
Hello.
And we are recording this during the NBA draft. It's after the lottery. The first round apparently is still happening, but
what do we care about that? We're done.
We really just cared about up until number 14, and I gotta say, like, I feel pretty good. But I'll elaborate on that later. How, Aram, are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. This is a good draft. These are good results. I don't know realistically how you could have asked for much more.
Yeah. So for those who haven't heard, the Warriors got Jonathan Kuminga at number 7, and then they got Moses Moody at number 14. So I'm like super damn happy. I mean, I've been saying that I wanted a combination of either James Bouknight at 7 and Zaire Williams at 14, or Jonathan Kuminga at 7 and Chris Duarte at 14. Duarte went 13th to Indiana, but then this was kind of a crazy lottery. Like, everything got jumbled up, and we ended up with Moses Moody, who's somebody that, like, we haven't talked much about lately because he was high up on people's boards, and he seemed to be high in the Warriors organization, but it felt like he just wasn't going to be there at 14 at all. So
yeah, it seemed like he was going to be in that kind of 8 to 13 range, but there was definitely some funny things that happened, and I think a lot of the draft experts talked about how after that top 5, a lot of things were swirling around and mixed up. And so, he ended up falling to us. And it seemed even weeks ago when they brought him in that they really liked him. And so, at that stage of the draft, I mean, I was still for my own sake, I was kind of hoping for that Kuminga Garuba combination that I was kind of intrigued by, but it's not about me. It's about the Warriors, and it's about these young men, these young basketball players tonight. So we're very happy for them. I was talking to my wife earlier, and I've been talking to her about the NBA draft and Warriors Christmas for months, and then she asked me right before the draft. She said, "Is it possible to be unhappy at Warriors Christmas?" I said, "All the time." That's all we know for the most part. I mean, it's not entirely true, but
mostly true
for tonight. Yeah, mostly true. And for tonight, I'm pretty happy. So I think that's a good sign.
Yeah. When the first, like, strange kind of thing was that Scotty Barnes went 4 to Toronto. So everything went kind of according to form. Cunningham, Jalen Green, Mobley, then was Barnes. And that was like, oh, okay. Is it going to be like one of those nights? And then I was like, is there going to be a trade from the Warriors to the 5th pick?
I know. I was thinking that a little bit too.
Yeah, but then, like, Suggs went, and then Josh Giddey went to OKC, which was totally, like, out of nowhere, which just, again, everybody says that Sam Presti's really kind of keeps everything very, very close to the vest. I don't think anyone was guessing Giddey to OKC.
No, he seemed like he was a high riser, but it didn't seem it was going to be much beyond 7 or any higher than 7. So he obviously showed them something, and that was definitely close to the vest. I don't think anybody thought of that. Just definitely surprised by that.
Right after that, I was like, oh God, Kuminga. I mean, we were texting. Kuminga and Bouknight were both on the board. And I was like, you got to take Kuminga. And, God bless them. They took Jonathan Kuminga. And I was like, I think I yelled. I think maybe I did like a fist pump too. I don't know. It probably looked really weird.
I think we're both watching. I think my stream is a little bit behind yours, which I noticed earlier. in one of the previous picks, and so right after I saw that it was Kuminga, and you knew that I was behind you, so you didn't say anything, and I texted you, and I was like, how do you feel? so now I know you were screaming in joy.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome pick. Apparently, a lot of Warriors Twitter before and probably after were very, win now, get somebody to help now type deal. But I mean, Kuminga, like we talked about, they brought in all these developmental coaches, and you take the best player available. And I mean, the kid is 18, 19 years old, so
Yeah.
I fully believe that he can learn how to play, because they're not going to throw him into the starting lineup against the Brooklyn Nets,
Yeah.
on the first night of the season, and he'll have a chance to really grow and learn the system. So I think he'll be yeah. I mean, I'm super happy. I couldn't have imagined a better pick at number 7 for me.
Yeah, when we had the option there of Kuminga or Book Knight, when it comes down to the moment of your decision, your kind of heart tells you what you really wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
there was some mock draft. I think the Ringer had a mock draft this morning that said Franz Wagner at 7, and that was the threat to me. I was like, don't pick Wagner, don't pick Wagner, please, not Wagner. Anybody, either Booknight or Kuminga, I'm fine, but not Wagner.
Yeah,
And
you
so
texted
I was
that to
really happy.
me. You texted that to me, and I had totally forgotten about Wagner. And I'd seen some of those mocks that, like, I mean, these publications and these websites were totally milking the draft like every day. It's like final mock draft,
Yeah.
the latest on trade situations, and
Post lunch mock draft.
exactly. Um, and when you texted Wagner to me, I was like, oh man, no, don't put that in the universe. No.
Totally. But okay, I will say two things. Kendrick Perkins is terrible.
Yeah.
He said that Kuminga reminds him of Jordan Bell. Very strange comp. Very strange
Yeah.
comp. But maybe Perkins is having some flashbacks of the of some of those Warriors runs. Jordan Bell dropping dimes between his legs. So maybe to
Right.
him, Jordan Bell is pretty good. But but my other thing on a more serious note is that, like, I like how they looked at the Wiseman experience, said, okay, these young guys are going to have a hard time adjusting. We need to build better development around them, give them better conditions to succeed. And so I think this is going to work. Or they've talked a lot about organizations, the importance of organizational fit for a player to develop properly, and so they've made strides to do that. But I guess my serious question, and not to be too much of a negative Nelly, but why do you think he slid? I
I
mean,
mean,
does that give you any pause? I mean, we're happy about
no,
this pick, but
no. I mean, like, he has flaws, and those flaws are pretty well documented. And if I'm looking at the 6 picks that went ahead of him, I mean, we knew that he was going to be top 7 no matter what. And the fact that Giddey jumped up ahead, that's like the only surprise, right? Everything else stayed true to form, with a couple, one or two people swapping, which were a little surprising in the top 6. So he was never in the category of Cade, Green, Mobley, and then he wasn't in the category of Barnes, Suggs at a certain point. He fell because, there were those flaws, and there were a couple other guys that were better. There's nothing new. It wasn't like he was the number 1 pick, then all of a sudden fell to 7. He was projected at number 1 by a few websites, uh, just based on one game in the G League, but everything else, I think it stays pretty much true to form.
I mean, that block against Poole in the G League bubble was pretty sick.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
powerful.
mean, he's super raw. He would be going into his first year of college, if he was, hadn't reclassified and all that. It didn't seem like he slid because of there were any character issues or anything like that. It's just something that you wonder about a little bit, but maybe the other teams were in a position where they felt they needed something else, and that's fine. And so yeah, I'm happy about it. Should we talk about Moses Moody?
Yeah, 14, Moses Moody. Okay, what are your thoughts on that, and what you were thinking as the picks were really getting shuffled, and it was like, oh my gosh, who is still left on the board? Because people started
I
jumping up higher, and I was like,
yeah,
Zaire Williams jumped ahead, and then Davion
Josh
Mitchell,
Primo
Josh
went to
Primo, and
the,
I was
like,
like, it's like there's all these people who are left that we've talked about,
yeah.
and yeah, what were your thoughts as
Well,
that was coming up?
I had to go look at a big board and see who was left. It definitely was like, oh, okay, we're gonna be able to get a shooter here. Whether it's, Duarte just went off the board, so I was a little bit disappointed by that. Because he likes octopus and I like octopus.
Yeah, both raw and grilled, sushi and izakaya.
But knowing that they could get Moody, they could go Kispert, that there were options there. And I like Moody a lot. Again, like we said, when they brought him in a few weeks ago, they seemed to really like him too. Had him look at some film, break down some film. He played on that really great team with Cade and Sharp and Scotty Barnes. So he's played a role at a high level in all of these places, but he's still only 19 years old, has really solid foundation to build from, and so he does have upside in addition to the experience of being a role player for a good team, a winning team. So I think this is a pick that is both safe and also has a lot of upside. So super happy about this one.
Yeah, he is someone that obviously was high in the Warriors' minds early on. And you mentioned the time that they brought him in and they had him break down game film, right? And I'm sure you heard this, right? Like somebody asked, Jalen Johnson, like, what was his game breakdown session, film session like? And he's like, oh, I didn't do that. It's like, oh, okay. And so obviously they were high on Moody. And as we've talked about before, like the comps for Moody are Bridges on Phoenix. And the highest comp is probably Chris Middleton. And as a 3-and-D guy who has like really, really long arms, right? There's that photo of him touching the floor and the top of the door frame or something in his mom's house. That's kind of awesome. And if he has good size at 6'6", and so like you have a classic 3-and-D guy. I mean, that'll fit in really, really well. And if I could just take a step back and be like, oh man, okay, so our youth movement right now is James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, Jordan Poole, Moses Moody, and Italian Olympian Nico Mannion. I mean, there's not much athleticism on the guard side, but Kuminga and Wiseman, as I like to say, man, that's not bad.
No. I mean, the NBA right now, you need to be able to cover a lot of space. The floor is so open with so much shooting. You got a bunch of dudes with really long arms that can cover a lot of space. The Warriors have shown that they like that over this dynasty run, that they prefer long athletes who can cover that ground. So it bodes well. I mean, at least from a physical standpoint, and they have things that they can work on in terms of skill and shooting. And some of these guys already have the ability to do that. So I think it's a really solid base to build upon and develop to try to have that kind of multi-generational run with the veterans. I think, and like we said, Moody is that kind of like can fill both sides of it. He might be able to play a little bit. I don't think Kuminga will play very much.
Nah.
He'll be on the roster, but hopefully he'll play a lot in Santa Cruz as well. But I'm curious to know, like, I mean, or I think that this shows that, or I'm hoping that they've really laid some track for their free agent period, that Steph and Draymond have been making calls to get some veteran depth because they have picked a couple of young dudes, and I think that's the right way to go.
Yeah.
Because even a 22-year-old rookie is probably not going to do great. Like maybe a couple of these rookies will contribute to a playoff team, but the odds are pretty against that. So I'm hoping that there's some free agent traction that they've made, even though they don't have a lot of options to get those free agents.
I am curious because, although I really like the picks, a couple of things that we had talked about leading up to the draft were passing and shot creation. And I don't think, obviously, that they've addressed those issues yet. Like, Book Knight is not there, even though, he would have been a rookie. But like, Moody, you don't expect him to create much off the bounce. You expect him to come in, hit a couple shots, and play solid defense and not be a liability. Kuminga, he's not going to be a factor this season. I still love these picks, but yeah, it makes me. This is why I think we both were a little bit fixated on Chris Duarte, because of what he could bring. And obviously he'd risen up a lot of the mocks, because I feel like he could have, he was just a toolsy guy who could do like a jack of all trades type of, had a jack of all trades type game, who could like hit a three, do a little bit off the bounce, and play defense. Yeah. That's the question moving forward. We're talking, roster construction, and I don't know. I have no idea how they're going to plug in those holes. Now we have to really hope that Clay is, by mid-season, at least 85% of himself,
Yeah.
And that Jordan Poole can take another leap, and Wiseman can take a leap. For Poole, just as another guy who can get a bucket, I think that'll be huge.
Yep.
And, who's their backup point guard? Poole. Do they stick Mannion back in the G League? Does he show enough in Summer League to warrant real playing time again? So it remains to be seen, because I haven't really checked on who's available in free agency and what all those different scenarios are of like the minimums, the exceptions, all that jazz. So it'll be interesting.
I think this shows they really believe in Poole, and I think we all saw it in the end of the season and those play-in games. The dynamism that he gives, and he's going to have a chance to really be put in a good position to succeed with Clay being slow played. Not that they are, not that he's going to probably start in Clay's position, but there's going to be minutes there for him to take, and this is a big year for him, and he's put in the work. So I have really high hopes for that, and these are I think these are kind of vote of confidence picks for him as well, that they didn't get some other ball dominant guard, and we were both saying like, oh, if you have two dynamic shot creators, it can work, especially because Poole has shown a willingness to pass. But I think maybe they saw some of those clips from the Jordan Crawford league. But it seemed like Bob Myers had watched some clips. But
yeah, they crossed Book Night off their list after watching those clips. I want to talk about some of these surprises really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, the first surprise, there were a few, right? Like we mentioned, Giddey going to OKC, but the one that really made me go like, what the hell, was Davion Mitchell going to the Kings, right?
Yeah.
Because you in our mock draft had Franz Wagner, and then Subsequently, I read a bunch of other mock drafts, and they all had Franz Wagner or Sengun going to the Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And once Wagner went to 8, I was like, oh, maybe the Kings, they're going to pick Book Knight or Moody, and they're really guard heavy, but, are you going to take BPA? And to me, it's like, well, they tried to move Buddy Hield, and they already have like their two best players are basically Halliburton and Fox.
Yeah.
But if you're going to take a guy who can score, then take BPA. But then they took the 6-footer,
Yeah,
Davion Mitchell, who plays the exact same position as your best player, who is only like maybe 21, 22 years old, who was just drafted like what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? I don't remember. Yeah. But I couldn't believe it. And I just thought of what we talked about and how Vivek was probably like, oh, Davion Mitchell. The same way he was like, Stauskas. And it's like the same way, like there's Stauskas because, that was influenced maybe by the Warriors players. And then they got Buddy Hield in a trade because of like, oh, he's like Klay Thompson. And then it's like, oh, the Warriors like Davion Mitchell. Let's take Davion Mitchell. that was just a joke going through my head.
It's such a weird pick. Because sure, he could play with Fox, but you're not going to be playing the whole game with him. It just seems like a weird fit. And we all love Mitchell's compete level and his defense on the ball, but it's just super weird. But Kings gonna Kings, I don't know what else to say, man.
Yeah,
surprised.
I don't know what else to say either. Like the only thing I could guess was they were so set on Wagner that they didn't have anything else on their board.
Yeah, like,
they probably went online to go check like all the mock drafts to see who was there, and they're like, oh, Davion Mitchell, because I don't know, like, can you imagine playing Fox and Mitchell? And I know Mitchell's good on defense, but they're so small, man.
Yeah. They're going to be super fast. Maybe they're just going to totally lean on, we're just going to play really, really fast. We have these two really quick dudes in the backcourt. I just don't know. Like small backcourts, they can work if they can guard up, and Mitchell can. And I really like De'Aaron Fox. I just don't see it. It's a weird pick. It's a weird pick.
Yeah. What else stood out to you?
I thought Josh Primo, like none of us knew who he was, and I'm sure a lot of draft experts did. But even them, I think, were kind of like, whoa, why did he go so high? Youngest player in the draft going to the Spurs.
I don't know.
I don't know. Like they have a good development system, and so they have some track record of developing these kind of toolsy athletic wing and guard guys, but it's kind of a weird pick.
Yeah, I mean they passed on Moody, Sengun, Trey Murphy,
but maybe they wanted to go with the highest upside, and like then you pick the youngest dude.
I'd heard the name Josh Primo, and I only remembered it because I was like, that's a cool name.
Yeah.
But I never bothered to read much about him because he was nowhere near the 14th pick or the 7th pick. And I guess I was wrong. By the way, it looks like the Rockets also got Garuba at 23.
Yep.
Wow, they had a good draft, man.
Yeah, we're recording this before the end of the first round, so there are some interesting picks here.
Yeah. Another surprise for me was my man Zaire Williams going 10.
Yeah. You were starting to hear him moving up because of his, it's kind of like, oh, Stanford had such a weird year, and he has a lot of talent, but still a little surprised that he went so high.
I would have been really heartbroken if we didn't get Kuminga at 7 and then Williams went before 14. I mean, not
Hmm.
that there's no guarantee that the Warriors would have taken him, but if he went this high and people were that high on him in general internally, who knows? Yeah, I think him going to the Grizzlies. I mean, the Grizzlies are going to be good.
Yeah.
They're already pretty
Yeah.
good, and if
Yeah.
they can activate him a little bit and get him and develop him, that will be. I mean, I think he's going to be really, really solid. I hope he's not better than Jonathan Kuminga, because
I
then
know. I hope not too.
I'll be like, oh, I was hoping for the wrong thing. Um, but we'll see.
There's going to be trades over the next few days. There's already some picks that are being traded around, but there was the trade that was not so much about the draft. It was the Washington Wizards and the Lakers made a big trade.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that trade? So it was Kuzma, Harrell, KCP, I think, going to the Wizards and for Westbrook.
Yeah. Was there a pick involved?
Yeah, so Washington also got the Lakers first round pick, who turned into who is Isaiah Jackson, the big man from Kentucky.
Yeah. I think this was a really good trade for the Wizards, and I think it was a pretty mediocre trade for the Lakers. Despite what Lakers Twitter is saying, they're all super happy. But the trade that was on the table before for pretty much the same group of guys to Sacramento for Buddy Hield, I think would have been an overall more beneficial trade for the Lakers, considering they don't have 3-point shooters. That's what they need. They don't need more ball dominant chuckers who think they're still at MVP level. And don't get me wrong, like Russell Westbrook can still contribute, but like what they really needed is it's this glaring thing. They could have traded for Hield and then re-signed Dennis Schroeder, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a couple of guys who fill roles and fill needs. But now, I mean, they could still keep Schroeder. I have no idea. But now you just have Westbrook, who, I mean, he still can put up numbers, but it's always been a question in my mind how much he actually contributes to winning in general,
Totally. I mean, well, especially winning in the playoffs. We always saw how the Warriors played him, and there was always or often a chance that you could just bait him into doing things that were not winning plays. And he consistently did those things, taking odd shots or bait him into hero ball. And he's not a good shooter. I mean, they probably will rely on, the pull of the Lakers and LeBron to get some vet minimum shooters.
Right.
So they'll probably be able to fill it out a little bit. And, by the end, Harrell was not so great. But I do think it's a good trade for the Wizards. It also shows, I think, that Beal's staying, and he's definitely not getting traded to the Warriors.
Thank God.
Yeah, and they have some kind of tested veterans around him, and they can probably make a decent run in the East for a lower seed in the playoffs. So it seems like that's what Bradley wants.
Yeah. I have this hot take. It was funny to me once the Westbrook trade got announced, everybody was talking about like, oh, well, Bradley Beal's going to the Warriors, or Bradley Beal is getting asked to be traded. I was like, but is he? Is he? Because there is a part of me, I don't know anything about Bradley Beal's personality, but like he played with Wall for so long, and then he had to play with Westbrook.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that there was any strife or any kind of like whatever, but like, now he's by far the best player on this team, right?
Yeah, you got the keys now. Yeah.
On this team. And they added Kuzma, KCP, and Harrell, right? And those guys did not perform that great for the Lakers in the playoffs, but they're not terrible, right? Kuzma
No.
will be better. I don't. He's not Tatum. He's not, or whatever he says. I think it was going around. Like, did he say he was as good as Tatum, or he's as good as some All Star or whatever, or that he's an All Star caliber player? But regardless, like he'll get more touches. He won't have to defer to LeBron and AD. So that's solid. KCP will give you what KCP does. Harrell
Yep.
will give you some toughness. And then, I mean, they picked Corey Kispert up, and I was like, yep, that's what they're doing. Like they're adding role players to Bradley Beal's team and, picking up Isaiah Jackson too. That's, he won't do much his first year, but he's a prospect. So I think that's good for the Wizards. And from what everybody was saying about how Bradley Beal wanted to stay in DC and like build a winner in DC, I guess it's true.
Yeah.
And good for him, good for him. And thank you, Giannis, for showing him that is actually possible, even though the Wizards are nowhere close to being a dominant force in the playoffs in either conference anyway. No. So, but I'm happy about that. I'm actually looking forward to seeing the Lakers Westbrook experiment.
Oh, that's going to be high variance, I think, with the variance of aging LeBron, the variance of Davis's injuries, and just the variance of Westbrook, the eternal variance of Westbrook. Yeah. Like, you just never know which way it's going to go. And it could really work out. I don't know. Maybe they get really focused. But it'll be interesting either way.
You got to know, like you said, they're going to pick up some ring chasers, some role players that'll just, fill out the roster. I don't trust AD to be healthy for a full season.
No,
I just
neither do
don't, not at this point. And, with LeBron and Westbrook getting up there, it's going to be funny. Like, this feels like one of those, oh, hey, we just signed Gary Payton and Karl Malone. We're going to be the best team in the league. Or, hey, we just signed old Steve Nash and Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
We're going to be awesome. So this feels, maybe I'm just hoping for that.
I'm hoping a little bit for that too. But I'm hoping a little bit of that for the Warriors as well. We need a few ring chasers as well.
Hell yes. Yes.
I don't know who those people are going to be. It's got to be, we need a big, we need a veteran big. We need another wing or, a 3, 4, 5 kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Again, like you said, there's so many people out there, and it's so hard to project what is going to happen in free agency. So I think we'll just be monitoring Twitter and seeing what the rumors are, and hopefully all the lobbying and the track that they've laid will turn into something.
Would you have preferred Duarte at 14 instead of Moody? Like, I'm trying to figure out if I was way too fixated on Duarte, and just imagining his fit and like his do everything and his toughness.
I think he has better numbers in terms of his shooting. He's a little bit more edge, and he definitely felt like somebody who would be able to play next season. But I don't know. I think Moody is a solid pick. He doesn't shoot it as well as Duarte, but long term he's got more upside just from age alone. There's more chances that he'll add more things to his game, provide more kind of value over time. But yeah, probably Duarte will be better in the first 2 years of their kind of respective contracts or careers. But no, I mean, I think part of why we were excited about Duarte was that we didn't think Moody was going to be at 14. I mean, there were some mock drafts that had him in that range, but and I think we were also fixated on Duarte because that was like our pick right after the lottery. I think we both said Duarte, so that was
that's cool. Right.
I knew it all along.
Yeah, man, I was really, really hoping for book night. I was like, for him to drop at 14. I was like, oh my God, we got Kuminga. will the basketball gods give us book night too?
Yeah, yeah. The hope of having a real dynamic score would have been really nice. But
Yeah.
I'm just to bring it back to kind of how we started. I'm super happy with this haul.
Yeah, could you have imagined after we realized that the Minnesota pick was not going to give us one of the, at the time, top 5 guys in the draft, and we got like one of the top 5 guys from, back then.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Now he's top 7. So yeah, I'm stoked. I think I said I was going to probably run around the block, but I'm not going to, because that would just be silly.
It's been a long process. I think I'm just realizing how tired I am now. Like after this whole draft process. I mean, not that I did any real work, but just constantly reading things and listening to mock drafts and draft predictions and draft scouting reports. It's super fun, but it's actually quite exhausting.
Yeah, it is exhausting, and it can be frustrating, right? Because then you're like realizing that they're just messing with you. Basically, they're like, "Oh, click here, right?" Yeah. And so it's like, "Oh, we heard a rumor, we're making it up," or somebody starts a rumor out of nowhere, like NBAanalysis.net, the worst website on the internet. But yeah, it was exhausting, and it totally was a flashback to how it used to feel when I was like a kid in the 90s, before we had the internet, and when I was just reading like Sports Illustrated or the local paper, or just watching college basketball and reading scouting reports, and how deep you can get into it.
Free agency starts in a few days. That's going to be exciting, because I think on day one, there's going to be a little bit of clarity on the roster in terms of some veterans. And then Summer League, like these dudes are going to play Summer League, right? So that's going to be fun.
Yeah. When does Summer League start?
I think like second week of August or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hopefully Italy gets eliminated from the Olympics, because I'm still on Nico Mannion Island. And but yeah, I would love to see Kuminga in Summer League.
Yeah.
And I would love for him to show like what he can do to, like, for other Warriors fans who are like, what did we just do? We left Corey Kispert on the board. But real quick, I just wanted to run through like the Warriors roster right now. So it's like Steph.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
It's Steph, Clay, Draymond, Looney, Wiseman, Wiggins,
Poole,
JTA, Poole. That's 8. Who else is under contract? Damian Lee is under contract. Nico Mannion is under contract.
Right? Yep. Eric Paschall.
So that's 11.
Michael Mulder is like on a non-guaranteed.
Yeah, Mulder. So that's 12. You throw in Kuminga and Moody, so that's 14. You jettison Smilagic, right? Like,
oh yeah, he gone.
Yeah.
I think they'll add a free agent wing and a free agent big.
Candidates to be jettisoned: Paschall.
Well, I think it's Mulder. So Lee, Mulder, Mannion, and Paschall. They're all candidates to get the boot.
Yeah. In my universe, it's not Mannion.
In my universe, it's definitely not all caps Damian Lee.
So thank you, Eric Paschall, and thank you, Michael Mulder. Mulder hopefully is replaced by Moody to some extent.
Yeah. Longer arms.
Yeah, and taller. All right. Well, that is another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. Be sure to subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Patrick Epino, E-P-I-N-O, or at Oakland Warriors. Check us out at oaklandwarriors.com, and be sure to tell your fellow Warrior fan friends to tune in and listen. The Oakland Warriors podcast is produced by the National Film Society. That's it. Music in this episode provided by Paper Sun. Special thanks to Paul Amardo for production support. See you next time.